single parent, it's hard to come to these meetings because you have to be at home with your kids. So maybe my friend Alex, I don't know if she's still here, she had suggested, what about having basketball in the gym during one of these meetings so that our kids could come and someone could be supervising the basketball and the adults could be in here. Or at the meeting you're talking about, what about having food? Or like ADJOURN Smithfield has been putting together potlucks that we bring our own food and get together and try and learn about government and other things that people want. So I'm saying, I don't think there's any one answer, and it's not a finger pointing, it's like an invitation to put our heads together to try and figure out how can we have more participation and make it more pleasant. And I would like to go to one of those that you're talking about. I don't know what the schedule is for those, so I think we need to figure out, in addition to the newsletter, more ways to get people to know about when the meetings are and what they are. And that might include educating. We could have like a civics kind of series where people like you guys, the budget people, come and present little like 10-minute sessions, like this is what we do, and the school committee, this is what we do, and because a lot of people in the town don't know how this works unless you've been on a particular board. A lot of people, and it's mostly the same people who come to all of these meetings too. I mean, I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and it's pretty much the same people who come to the meetings. I think that's it. Thank you.
Tony Burton, 8 Country Way. I would like to deviate from what I thought was going to be the topic for tonight's meeting, which is the budget for the upcoming year, because it seems like a good majority of what we've heard tonight is a history lesson and a philosophical discussion. And I got to tell you, I thought I was here to hear about the budget, and we didn't hear a lot of that. So, unfortunately. So, I just like to mention that if people aren't happy with the way things are done, instead of opining on it on social media, get involved and actually take action. And Paul, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and Terry, you do as well. Because both of you, along with myself, just finished serving on the Charter Review Commission. And what the Charter Review Commission did is look at the charter, which is how we do business in this town, the guide for how we handle the affairs of this town. We looked at it and we made revisions, we proposed revisions, which went to the council. There's a process. And we followed that process, and then it went to the voters. And the voters decided on a vast majority of the changes they approved. But the fact of the matter is, the reason we do things the way we do in North Smithfield is because the charter guides us in that manner. And to deviate from that is to get what we have here tonight, which is a lot of discussion around history and philosophy, and not enough taking a part of the actual budget. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Miles Briggs, 32 Woodlawn Road. Who was the one that put on the budget for the Cherry Brook? Excuse me? Who added the line item for Cherry Brook? Who was it that added that?
The administrator.
Oh, well, personally, thank you for that. We've been fighting for close to 20 years to have that added. I guess one thing that I want to make sure is that the Conservation Commission is also looking to do something with with the beaver dam that's over there. But I want to make sure that the town, the town council, town administrator, ensure that nothing happens to that until after that study is complete. That's my only concern. That's it.
Miles,
Yes, sir.
Miles, you recall several years back, there was a thought process of potentially damming sections, the drainage down the church to protect your neighborhood, to allow it to back up into Cedar Swamp, and it was going to be metered out much like a retention basin. Do you recall that?
We recall parts of it. I was probably young. I'd pick up, essentially picking up my father's fight.
Yeah,
My father's fight. I'm picking it up.
Yeah. Those are some of the things that we had looked at in the past, and then was DEM regulations kind of caused it to be forgotten about.
Correct. And just to put it on the record as well, the main reason for the flooding in our area before the beaver dams was the culvert was probably 12 to 14 feet wide on one side, but 3.5 feet to 4 feet wide on the other side.
Is that side of the railroad? Yes.
On the other side of the railroad. So I believe at that time the railroad still functioned on that. As I'm aware of now, Providence Worcester doesn't use that line anymore. It's defunct. So I think that could be an option that can also be reviewed as well as part of the study. Thank you.
Carol Ayala, 110 Log Road. I'll just make a really quick comment. I'm on the Conservation Commission, and I think the Cherry Brook study is an excellent way to go, and I don't think we will move forward with anything in that area until we hear the results of that study. And I think if we had thought up a request for that amount of money for a study, we certainly would have done it, but we didn't think, anybody would approve that. But that's an excellent avenue to pursue, and we'll wait to hear what that study shows, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve the flooding problem and everything connected with that. But so thank you for adding that into the budget. I appreciate that.
Would anyone else like to address the board before we take second timers? Mr. Rathbone?
I want to focus on the budget. I missed an item on page 11 of 13, Appendix C, right at the bottom. They're tied together, OPEB transfer. OPEB is a big number. It's increasing drastically. It's related to retirement benefits. The school department has it under control. There's a 7-year window of single coverage or age 65. The municipal has a limitation. The fire department has a limitation. I'm not sure if the police department has a limitation on the OPEB. So I don't know what's driving this OPEB liability. I'm comfortable with the school department, the way it's set up for OPEB, the municipal and the fire, but I don't know how the police is working, if it's unlimited liability for 20 years once they retire until age 65, which would cost you the $400,000 to $500,000 liability per retiree. I don't know if that's what's driving the OPEB in terms of the numbers, but it's a big liability, and I don't know if somebody can help to understand what's the biggest contributor of that liability for OPEB.
I know that I may be mistaken, but the state came in with the new guidelines for OPEB. It actually increased our amount that we need to target in projection.
That's correct. This increased from $6 million to $9 million. We currently have something just under $800,000 in the OPEB trust for that purpose. We've got a long, long way to go.
But I guess you don't solve the problem by setting aside more money. You have to figure out what's driving the liability of the OPEB, not the total number, but which kind of retiree, what kind of benefit package are you offering the retiree that's generating that $8-9 million liability. As I said, I'm comfortable the way they negotiated the school contract, the municipal, the fire. I think we have good controls for OPEB on those departments. I don't know what's left on the police department. I don't know if it's part of the contract negotiations or if it's a separate item.
Clearly, the obligation of the town as it relates to its police force is a substantial part of the OPEB obligation. and it is part of our concern as we negotiate.
Thank you very much. Related to that is the next two items above it is the pensions. I don't know if the state controls the police pension because it's really going from $300,000 in 2017 to $461. But when you look at the municipal in that same time frame, it hasn't changed that much. So I don't know what's driving the police pension to increase it that much compared to the municipal. I don't know if it's a state regulation on the pensions or if it's something else.
It has to do with the municipal employee retirement system. And they set different rates for different employees. And the police department has, I believe it's close to 24% town's contribution to the pension plan.
So it's much higher than the municipal. It's much higher than the
I
municipal.
believe it is.
Okay.
Plus you're dealing with different amounts of money. So it's based on what they earn. So if the police are earning more than the municipal workers are, there's going to be a higher share that we put into it. A higher amount of money, I should say. Not
So is the 24% something brand new for this coming year, or is it 24% been in
I believe
existence?
it's been that way for a while.
It increased a couple of percent, but the bottom line is that all of our employees, including police, are part of MERS, and we are, paying as we go and as required to meet our obligations there.
So I guess if the rate hasn't changed by that much, it's still hard to fathom going from 300,000 to 461 from 2017 to 2020. Unless it's been big increases in the salaries of the police department. So I don't know what's pushing this number, if it's the head count of the police department or if it's the salary increases of the police department that's pushing that pension number to 461. I don't know. The last comment, I know the school department comes back every year during the budget process looking for an additional 100,000, 150,000. Unfortunately, this year there's a lot of liabilities. I don't think we've settled the police contract. Also, when we're closing Hallowell, the liability now for Hallowell belongs to the town. The money that was used to demolish Hallowell or reserved as part of the $12 million bond was not used for demolition. It was used for whatever's happening at the school renovation. So that $500,000 that was part of the bond now shifts over to the town side, which we have a liability now of $500,000, whether it's going to come out of the general fund. Whenever you're ready to start knocking down any of the older buildings at Hallowell, it's going to come out of the budget or the general fund of the town. It's not part of the $12 million bond. So that has flip-flopped. So it's like, it should have been done by the school department as part of the renovation. And instead, they used the money for something else. So now we have the liability. So I know they need more money in their budget, but also they've created a liability of an extra $500,000 that now you're going to have to face as to where that money is going to come from for that $500,000 to knock down any of those Hallowell buildings. Thank you.
Just for clarification, Mike,
Yeah.
those $12 million of bonds
Right.
were bonded by the town. None of them were owned by the school department. They were all owned by the town.
But part of,
All of that $12 million, all of that bonding belongs to the town. It falls under the town's control,
Okay.
belongs to the town, 100% of it.
but instead of using the money for demolition, it was used for something else. So now, to knock down any of the older
There is
buildings,
no plan to demolish Hallowell right now.
it was in the $12 million bond.
Hmm?
It was in the $12 million bond. John Flaherty can speak about it if he wants to come up. It was part of the $12 million allocation that the taxpayers approved. It was demolition cost of Hallowell in that bond, and it's not going to happen. So that means we're going to take $500,000 out of the general fund, or some amount of money, to knock down those buildings.
There's no plan right now to demolish Hallowell.
But at some point, you're going to have to pay to
There
demolish.
may be at some point, but right now there is no plan to demolish
Okay,
Hallowell.
so you're going to have to set aside future funds to demolish those buildings. So it's just to tell you you have a liability. You may not have it today, but in a couple of years, you're gonna have a liability to take down some of those buildings. And it's gonna come out of the general fund instead of the $12 million bond. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Anyone else?
One comment that I forgot to address was the police overtime. In FY 2018, it was $353,914. This year-to-date, until March 31st, it was $231,246. I think that my own belief is that overtime is triggered by the compensatory time language that's in the police contract. It's been recommended several times by several budget committees that language be renegotiated because it automatically triggers the kind of added overtime costs. I mean, at one time, the reason for this overtime being so high was we had dispatchers. We didn't have dispatchers. Now we have dispatchers. We've gone through periods where we did have dispatchers and the overtime was always high. We really think it boils down to the language in the police contract defining how that compensatory time program works. Kind of create your own overtime. Not personally your own overtime, but you build overtime. Other people build overtime off of your compensatory time. Just take a look at the contract language, please.
Anyone else? Solicitor, will you close the public hearing? No one else would like to speak? Then motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. President, seeing no one raising or rising, I don't make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Mrs. Lancy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bonioli. Roll call vote. Okay.
So,
In doing some research for today's meeting, I came across section 44.520.21, chapter 44.5, the North Smithfield property tax classification and tax levy determination. And I was wondering, in accordance to this, if the assessor can provide the council with a list containing the full and fair cash valuation of each property class. It goes on to say that with the approval of the town council, the end will be the annually determine the percentage of all that. But I was just wondering if we can get that list from the assessor for the next meeting or before the 24th, 25th.
Prior to
Yeah, at least by next week, so we can review it prior to the 24th.
motion in a second. Roll call vote.
Mrs. Bottomoli?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Mr. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Vadeney?
Yes. Next item on the agenda, discussion by council vote on their action on change orders number 5 and number 6 pertaining to Parkview Drive sewer extension.
Mr. President, members of the council, we have two change orders. Change order number 5 would extend the contract date for Inochillo construction to provide more time to wrap up the process, which would get the plat file and allow completion of the alternate A, which is the next change order. And the issue here is not to, I'm looking for authorization from the council to be able to be ready to approve once the plat for the extension of Edward Avenue is filed. Nothing will happen until that plat is filed.
Change order number 5 is only a time extension.
Correct.
To the contract.
With no cost.
With no cost. It's the time extension to the contract.
Correct. Requesting acceptance of that and authorization to sign.
Is there a motion by the council to approve change order number 5, which would extend the time frame with ADJOURN Consultants Construction to be no date specific? The dates on there are August 16th.
Thank you.
Is that the date?
I'm looking right now, Mr. President, sorry, I lost the page.
On page 2 of that? Change order? Yeah, but I'm saying, is that enough time?
It's what we have offered but from the contractor at this point.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve change order 5?
Extend the time and authorize.
To extend the time to August 16, 2019.
And authorize
And
the
authorize the administrator to sign.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bonneville, is there a second? I'll second for discussion.
So I know that in the last meeting, there was a question brought up about assessments. We just wanted to be getting clarity or any insight into that, or how those were going to be assessed as well, just on the extensions.
The assessment on this project is planned to be assessed on a per lot basis to divide the total cost by the number of approved lots. Plain and simple. That's what it's been from the very beginning. There's no change. That is the objective.
Any other comments? Roll call vote?
Mrs. Bottomoli?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
No.
Mr. Zelinski?
No.
Mr. Beck?
Yes. Tied. Motion does not carry. And we have change order number 6, which was to approve.
Mr. President, there's no point.
No point.
No. And at this point, what we just did is an embarrassment. If that's what your final decision on this project, I just, excuse me, but we have a contractor who is willing